Alright, welcome to Learning Objective 3 for the Age of Conquest and Expansion. When the problems, basically we're going to look at these four major reasons. The first one being external problems, mainly dealing with the Spanish. So colonization was a very expensive prospect, and England was really in no position to colonize. So they just found it easier to raid Spanish ships. What you have right here in this picture is Queen Elizabeth knighting Francis Drake, Sir Francis Drake. Sir Francis Drake and this guy right here, John Hawkins, this dapper-looking guy, they were considered freebooters. That's a polite way of saying pirate. And they would just basically raid Spanish ships as they were bringing back bullion, which is gold and silver. That's what it was all about. So the English crown was mainly funded before it started colonizing by Spanish booty, as it used to be called. This was an indication that that the fact that England was doing this was that they couldn't colonize. They were in a position of weakness, but once they had raided enough ships, then they did find themselves in a position to colonize because they had enough money. The other thing was, in 1588, they defeated the Spanish Armada, and basically because of a freak weather occurrence that happened and wiped out the Spanish Navy. And so this eliminated the ongoing threat that Spain posed to Great Britain, and they were free to colonize after that. Internal problems. There was the decline of feudalism with its serfdom and the development of cash markets for farm products brought important changes to rural England. The growing demand for wool by English weavers caused many landowners to change from grain farming to sheep raising, and they were growing sheep to fund the emerging wool market. And this leads to what's called the Enclosure Movement of 1590, when we see the beginning process of the privatization of land. Before the 1590s, land was held in commons, very much like the oceans are. There were princes and nobles that controlled the land, but the land was there for people to use, to grow their food stuff and to provide for their particular noble. But after 1590s, as we're beginning to see these nation states rise and we're beginning to see colonization happening, there was a huge incentive and dynamic to create a lot of surplus capital, and wool provided that. So people would look fancy. See how fancy they look in their clothes right here? This was so wool was in high demand. And again, the privatization of the land. Now what this did was it basically kicked a bunch of people off of the land that they had lived for generations, and they were moving en masse to the cities, to London and to Manchester, just for some examples. This congestion of people caused high crime. It put a lot of people in debtor's prison. And so this, the fact that England was in a position to begin colonization, high unemployment, the fact that there were mass people being placed in debtor prisons. It wasn't just that you got bad credit. If you couldn't pay your bills back then, you went to jail. The colonies provided an outlet for Great Britain to send its so-called troublemakers, just basically people that were born on the wrong side of the tracks. And religious instability, too. The colonies would provide an outlet for that and an incentive to colonize. This is in the heat of the battle between Protestants and Catholics. Where is this country going to go? The main problem by the time England was colonizing was how much to reform the church. So King Henry had broke away from the Catholic Church and started his own church, the Anglican Church, so it was a Protestant church. But there were a lot of people in England that felt that King Henry didn't go far enough. And so they were creating this social instability with their religious movement. These people are known as the Puritans, and we'll study more about them later. But this also provided an incentive for colonization, because you can get rid of these people, and it provided people who were willing to go too. So able people, willing people to go and colonize the New World. What you call it? Sorry, that's too many things I'm trying to click here. The rise of capitalism too, and economic survival are at stake. England was forced to compete in the world market for colonies for basically economic survival. If they didn't colonize, well, guess what? They would be colonized. The most familiar mercantilistic argument for advancement of colonies in the New World was that they would expand British trade, stimulate shipping, create a market for English manufacturers, and provide a supply of valuable raw materials such as gold, silver, foodstuff, and naval stores, mast ships, pitch, spars, and tar, basically. So there was definitely an economic need for it in this emerging new economic system that would be called capitalism. And last but not least, there was this continued hope to find a passage to the Orient, to the west. In fact, the James River in Virginia was originally called the Chinese River. And when the colonists in Jamestown first got there, they initiated an expedition down the Chinese River and to look for China. When it was clear that probably China was a little bit more far east than they imagined, they abandoned that mission and settled in. But we'll look at that later in the next lecture. Alright, that's it for now. I'll talk to you guys later. Do let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Oh wait, before I go, I do need to talk about the reading assignment. So I'm not going to talk too much about it because I don't want to take too much time here. But do look at the web page for Learning Objective 4 and make sure you understand what the reading assignment is and how to include it into your essay. Alright, that's it for now. I'll talk to you guys later.